welcome everyone. It's really nice to have people listening live, especially when I see them all coming through onto the webinar and I know that they're listening. It makes me perform a little bit better too. So I'm Becky Carr and I'll be taking you through the webinar today on demystifying teams, like using the team and build analysis especially. You know, as any business leader knows, that an organisation is only as good as the people it employs. As an organisation scales, this becomes far more complicated than just hiring the best people. New employees need to fit both into teams and work well with others. So whether you're forming a new team in your organisation or looking to develop the current team or navigating the various behavioural styles of your workforce can literally be quite a complicated matter at the best of times. So in this webinar, we're going to really look into what the team roles are in a little bit more depth and how to use them, how to apply them to the extended DISC team and build analysis as well. I admit team reports, they are so helpful when creating or upskilling or producing high performing teams from my point of view. So we're going to look at also too what a team gap analysis is and identify some things like complementary and convergent styles, just so you have a good understanding. These types of things really help teams to fully engage and work effectively with one another. So you would have seen this diagram, I'm sure, before. So we'll be looking at the actual team and build assessment as a whole a little bit later on in full. What I really wanted to go through was to pull out some aspects of it in a bit more detail so you know how to apply it more easily when we do look at it. Trust me, there is just so much that you can learn and use in regards to tools for the using for teams. I've pulled out 3 or 4 in this particular webinar, but there's still more as well. So firstly, I'm going to start with team roles. You know, often you'll actually hear them often referred to as team communication roles. Some of you I know already use them and I know others don't. And maybe they're, you know, maybe you don't know how to use them or a bit intimidated by what it all means. So, you know, there are 10 team roles and basically your DISC profile determines your team communication. So basically where you sit. Now, the purpose of knowing your team role is to gain better insight into how you function in any group setting. So as I say, there's 10 team roles or specific roles that we use at DISC. I'm going to go through them. You can see them with me up here, but there's changers, planners, developers, stimulators, participators, supporters, assurers, specialists, influencers, and communicators. And you can see that we've got the opposites in the middle as well. Each role has a specific way of doing things in a team, both beneficial and of course, some challenging. Each role has its own method of communication in that team. So the team role is decided, as I said, by where your DISC profile falls on the diamond. But before I go into each role, I really felt it was important that we have a quick discussion about when and where you may actually use these team roles. I often get asked that, oh, why do you use team roles in this circumstance? Or how do you use team roles? I just use their behavioural style. Yes, you can do that, but team roles just go a little bit further. So you can see up on the slide here, the first one is well, applications really. So with your team, some of the applications are to identify the role that the person would likely adopt in the team. Now this is obviously I use this for recruitment. I use this for recruitment in a way that if I'm, I guess, recruiting a person into an existing team, which is more common, but I also use this for defining what a new team, if I have the luck to design a new team from ground zero, you know, why and who I need potentially. So, and of course, development, that's a major one. If I'm developing a team, I definitely need to know a lot of the stuff we're going to be looking at today so I can understand why and reasons why things are like they are. So some of the other ones, to increase understanding among team members about each other's behaviour. This is so powerful. Understanding each other gives so much more tolerance. To help the team divide and handle responsibilities, so more on a strategic level. To solve people problems that are already currently in a team. So yeah, team roles, they're really useful, but they're especially useful when the team members need to work in close cooperation with each other. The team is expected to take more responsibility for its own tasks, which is a big one. Especially as a team evolves through the different storming, norming, etc., they get to a point where they do need to take a lot more responsibility, and it's not necessarily always from the leadership. The team is managed from a distance. This is another one. The team has communication problems that you need to work out, or the team is not working effectively in some ways. So this is when team roles can be very effective to use and analyse, really. You know, this might all sound terribly obvious, but getting teams to perform effectively is one of the key skills any leaders or coaches or consultants face constantly. So for example, some teams are brilliant at after-sales service, but they can't adapt to selling on the phone. Some teams never come up with new innovative ideas. They are happy with status quo and have a strength in rolling out processes. Some teams always seem to be constantly handling infighting. You know, we're going to take a look at those particular issues as well, and some of the whys to it. So again, I'm just bringing up the team roles in the diamond so you can see where they are. As I say, your preferred team role helps you find which team members tend to be easier to work with as well, and which ones may be more challenging. Just remember, there are no good or bad roles. So we'll look at this a little bit further down the track, but obviously roles that are similar to your own or to other people, they tend to be more comfortable to work with, while roles that are opposite tend to be, yep, you've got it, more challenging. So analysing a team is also about how many of these roles we have present, or how they spread or not spread out in the team. That stuff can all affect how a team operates. So that's why it's so important that you learn or know this information as well. So I guess my plan today is to show you some information, and at the end of this webinar we're going to have a look at the team and build, and so you have a bit more insight into it. So okay, 10 team roles. In front of you, you'll see on the screen here that I've chosen to go through in a bit more detail the assurer role, and you can see there on the diamond where it sits. Now these are all in the VIP section with HR profiling. There's actually 3 pages on each, so it's quite a lot of detail. We'll go through it, but obviously the shortened form is the one you'll probably be more familiar for those that use these team roles. So you can see here, assurer, they're thorough. They concentrate on their work. I won't read absolutely everything, but they dread to make mistakes. They want to work at their own pace. They're seen as quiet and private. In reality, they are a considerate person. They find extremely important to know what others expect from them and how they want. I mean, this kind of thing's really insightful, especially for leadership. They find it uncomfortable to jump into the unknown without the support of others. They want matters to proceed systematically. They do not find it important to be actively involved with others. However, they find it important that they can rely on others. So just bear with me in regards to this, but where you're going to get this is actually in a team report. And I'll take you through it, but the team report actually individually plots each person and also has a paragraph about where or what the name of the team role that each person fits into. So again, this is the long form, and a lot of people don't know that it's actually available. So the assurer, we go on to page 2, and you can see there that it goes into depth with attitude towards teamwork. Again, this stuff's really important, is if you're hiring someone or if you are developing a team, you want to know what their attitude is towards teamwork. And then of course, a bit more about their role in a team, their role as a decision maker, their role as a motivator to others, their role as a performer, so they're a doer in this case, so enters into one's matter carefully, and the benefit the group receives from having an assurer in their group. So for me, this is, it makes me think when I'm working with existing teams, do I need to hire other people in this area, for example? So we'll have a look at that gap analysis as well. The last page, we will be going a bit more in depth with this, but just to show you what's on it. These are a little bit like what I said before. These are what we call convergent and complementary styles. So when someone is around you, similar to you, it's easier to basically get on with them. When someone's quite opposite where you sit on the mapping system, yes, there are a lot more challenges. So you can see here that it's actually listed as what might be the easiest other role to get on with. Okay, so that's the long form. I wanted to show you, most of you would be familiar with the team roles written in their shortened form. Now, quite often these are in your training manuals. The other thing is too, they are in the actual team and build report themselves in this short form. So we won't go through them all, but we'll pull out a few of them. You can see here that someone who is, I guess, plotted in that particular area in the map is going to be named as a changer. Now that's someone that typically is a reformer, they're straight, decisive, and patient enough at times, knows what they want, they make quick decisions. Let's pop over to the other page so you can see. Let's look at specialists, for example. So a specialist type person in a team environment often will seek perfection. They can be quite pedantic, pertinent, inquiring. They examine why things are why they are. They notice details. Now, for me, again, recruiting or developing a team or seeing how someone fits into a team, this type of thing is pretty important to know what type of role they might take. Is it what I need? Have I already got too many people in that area anyway? Or do I need another one of these people because actually that's what the industry requires? You get my gist anyway. So those are all in the team and build. And I think sometimes I feel like we don't often refer to them enough, but they are really important. These last two here are the opposites, of course, the planner and the communicator. They're the opposites, that like DS and your IC, CI kind of thing. So it's important to include those as well. So I guess for me, one of the biggest differences, for me, one of the biggest or most important things when I'm looking at teams is to make sure that I really know how to analyze the team, and even more so to really identify what some of the differences are with the team roles and take those, and similarities, and really take those into consideration into what I'm trying to do, like what my purpose is with that team. So let's have a look, and there's quite a few different slides or material that I do take into consideration. So I had to really sit and think about which ones probably are the most important to fit into a 30-minute webinar. So I talked to you about before people that sit around you in the quadrant. They are a bit, I guess, more similar to you. They're easier to get on with, but I guess it's not always that, because you've got personality over the top of it as well. So about the team types, this is what I do consider. When I'm recruiting a new team member or an existing team, or even if I'm designing a new team from scratch or ground zero, this type of thing that we're going through now is so important, because it really does, it really goes into how you're going to develop the team and what are the fundamental reasons why some communication issues might be happening. So in this example, let's say you're plotted on the map as a participator. Now the participator, I actually haven't put the headers in, but the participator is the yellow wedge down the bottom. I could actually just get my little thingy here and draw it in, so everyone can see where I'm pointing. I won't draw it in. Oh, maybe I will. You can see down here that this is the participator down here. Oh, that was wobbly. I'm on mouse pad. So naturally what happens is that the people on either side of that they tend to be easier to work with. They communicate and filter information in a similar way to you. They also look at doing activities in a similar light. They also associate things like teamwork feelings in a similar way. So you know some roles are team players and others are far more autonomous. So it's so important for you to understand actually what team roles actually are similar, because there lies a few equations or power couplings or issues that can go on. Of course, that means that what we call complementary styles, these are your opposites. And these are, yes, people opposite you on the extended disc diamond. They can be more challenging to communicate with. They filter, they act, and can react possibly quite different to you in situations, especially under pressure, when we mainly tend to revert to our hardwired or less controlled natural style. So their development areas are usually your strengths and vice versa. Actually, if you work through some of these opposites and gain some acceptance into the differences of the opposites, then actually this can be a powerhouse coupling. And one of the industries that are very strong on this is real estate. Notice how quite a few people are joining forces to help with workload, yes, but also to quite different behavioural types of people or team roles that they do take. So staying on the same track here of differences and similarities, here's a few slides of benefits and frustrations often felt within the team. So this is stuff that I do consider as well. Oops, oh, it's not going. So the team role functions, this is the benefits. In the middle, for those of you that are new, that is called a shotgun map. And literally this is where everyone in the team is plotted with no names at this situation. So when working in team roles, here's some of the benefits that the roles can actually bring to the table. And it's pretty important to consider when recruiting or designing or developing. You can see some pretty big ones that I hear all the time. So some of the top ones, say like DC, the benefits: discuss issues logically. They weigh up pros and cons. They find errors and inconsistencies. They analyze ideas. Obviously, the 3-page in-depth document that we have in the VIP discusses this plus a lot more, but this is a nice one just to show. Your D style creates new systems, makes decisions, controls activities. Let's jump down the bottom there. So you can see it would be called a participator. So understands others, considers human factors, supports others in decision making, checks new ideas, provides context to issues. Oh, I've still got my drawing on the graph, so just hang on a second, and actually I'll come back to that. Master of facts and understands systems. So you can see as you go around, if you actually drop I wanted to keep this shotgun map on here, but actually if you drop in the team roles, you can see which one belongs to which. But I find this quite fascinating. I put this up on the board when I'm doing team workshops, and people go, oh yes, okay, that's really what I can do. And other people go, okay, I didn't know that about Bob or Susan. In a similar vein, we also have the same issue with this next one as well. I'll just bring them all up. These are frustrations that others can have with each other. So typically, you know, your developer up the top, people will say, oh, they get so frustrated. Don't be so harsh. And their thought is, hey, I need to shake things up and get things moving. Let's jump to an influence there. People's frustrations, you know, don't always come up with the ideas. They're thinking, ideas keep business moving, secure our future. Let's now jump over to assurer on the other side. You know, stop trying to achieve perfection. Exactness and ensure the exactness does ensure the success of our team. So look, I know I sidestepped a little bit here, but I think it's always really good to have a couple of slides of benefits of the roles and frustrations of the roles as well. There's plenty more information on a lot of this stuff as well. So I guess for me, I hear this frustration stuff a lot, as I was saying before. When I come in to develop and look at teams about what's going on, this stuff is obviously battered about quite a lot. There's conflict, there's frustrations, they're not working together as a team. These little snippets actually have a lot to do with some of the tips and tricks of what I look at and examine. So the other thing is, so we have a look at all the team roles and how they get on with each other. And of course, we've had a quick look at some of the benefits and frustrations just with a couple of slides. But now I'd like to show you what you can utilize this with, and that's team types. And that really gives us some really good strategy to apply as well. Let's have a look. I've still got that drawing up there, so my apologies. I'll just see if I can clear all my drawings. That was a bit annoying, wasn't it? Okay, so these are the three team types. We've got homogeneous, we've got the heterogeneous, and we've got the diverted teams. Okay, I don't expect you to remember that straight away, but funnily enough, it is pretty important to remember. We're going to go into depth with each one. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview at this stage. So let's have a little look. So when I'm talking about what team types, I'm talking about where the clusters of those bullet points lie on the shotgun map. Are they clustered together tightly in one area? Are they sprinkled or all over the diamond? Are they from lots of different areas like that heterogeneous team is? Or do they come from opposites, clustered in opposites, which I do see fairly often too? Again, this information is going to help you work out how to train or consult with a particular team. Okay, so, and I'll explain also too the information down the bottom. So let's have a look. Homogeneous team description. Members have a similar trait and attributes to each other. The advantage of this type of team is that there is a lot of cohesion. So they're similar to each other. There's high productivity and goal accomplishment because, you know, you put a whole lot of people that are similar to each other in one area and you find that things can escalate in a particular expert or specialist area. I know someone brought up the other day that when you put, you know, you have these schools that are for very top children and they basically, their level of thinking rubs off on each other and it can escalate further into more strengths. The disadvantage, I guess, is going to be excessive cohesion can turn into group think. And that means they all think they can think the same. They want to stay within the same comfort zones or the flexibility zones as each other. They might have the same strategy. In this case, it could be that they're very aware of change and maybe not so willing to implement it quickly. So the strength of this team is, yes, you're right, communication. Challenge is flexibility of work. Because if this happened to be a team that I need to hunt for sales, this could be interesting. Could be an interesting look, I guess. So let's have a look at the next page. This is the heterogeneous team description. So we're going to, I would have to say this would be tend to be the more common, but this is where members have a diverse orientation. So the shotgun map, the little circles are plotted right throughout the shotgun map or fairly evenly. Agreement might be difficult. Now this is because agreement, they're thinking differently, they need different things, their communication might be outlaid differently. And for those of you that have listened to my other webinars, you'll know that I'm quite a big one about bringing up how someone's attitude to activities can result in conflict. You know, you've got your higher areas here where your higher D's sort of area, which let's say the changer, they want to implement fast change and the rest of the supporters and assurers are wanting to say, slow down. So agreement can be difficult on how to do things. The thing is with this is though it may take longer to get to decisions or agreements, it leads to far more innovative solutions if you need it to be that way. So in situations where creativity is important, things like planning or research or ad teams, for example, this type of team may have an advantage over the others. So the strength of this particular team is division of labour. So they've been able to divide up the different responsibilities correctly to people that have maybe natural strength in those areas. The challenge, of course, is communication. Okay, the last team type is diverted team description. And this is where it's made up of opposites, really, and opposite traits and attributes. So the agreements can be conflicting as they're made more of a pushed through based on sub-team versus sub-team. So in this situation, it might be those, I keep saying Ds, but I shouldn't before a team role, but they're made up of one team that may be stronger verbally or in an extrovert way and pushing through what they need onto another team that may not be as verbal or assertive, in which case this often can happen here and cause all sorts of troubles. So delegation is strong, so members' strengths can be utilised as well. If a sub-team form, this is where it can get a bit risky. This is the risk of losing cohesion. And this is where you can see, say in this situation, the assurers would go out to lunch, for example, and they may not necessarily associate with the other team, the influencers. So that's what we call, so strength here is delegation from one to the other, because they have opposite strengths to each other, so they can utilize their strengths well if there's some tolerance for them. The challenge is for them not to sub-team and keep in their own silos. So let's just take that diverted team for a moment and we just do a we gaps analysis. Apply some of those typical questions around the team type and the team roles now that you're aware of them. So before I show you the questions, can I just say that a lot of this is about you researching or knowing about the industry, or what the purpose of the team is, or what the issues are, and of course the goals of the team. So this shotgun map, is this shotgun map, for example, of a department? Or is it, are we actually looking here at an entire organization on this particular diamond? You know, is this an engineering firm or a training company? So you'll need to know this type of thing because it really does impact how and how you analyze it really and what you implement. So if that was your team, for example, I would then find out all the industry. You can make up your own questions coming as well, but find out the industry, find out what the purpose is, what the goals, who I actually have on here. Is there any leaders plotted on here, or is it just staff members? Do they work in the same location? Are they geographically in touch with each other? All this type of thing so you can understand what you're looking at. So typically, people say to me, you know, Becky, with the gaps analysis, what types of questions do you ask yourself? Well, here's a few. You can ask yourself far more than this. But I have to say my own personal ones are a bit more in depth with a bit more detail. But I started out using this, and this is absolutely fine. It got me thinking, it got me analysing, it got me seeing the gaps, it got me seeing the overlaps, it got me seeing the team types, all sorts of things. So actually, it's pretty good. So let's have a look at some of the questions. The overall distribution, how does the team's makeup relate to their overall objectives? So just to be clear, this is a gaps analysis. These are some questions that you could use. A lot of these questions or forms can be found again with HR profiling. They can provide certain questions for you. Sorry, my internet, hopefully everyone's still there. I seem to have unstable internet today. So when I was just talking about it before, you know, this might be an engineering company, for example, and this may be, let's say, their leadership team. And this is actually represented on here as actually a division of each of the departments. So what would be my issues might be, because I definitely would have some gaps with this one for sure. I have what I call a diverted team. This is my leadership team that's also representing everything from sales to manufacturing to procurement, all sorts of things. Am I missing some gaps? So overall distribution. The next question is like, where are the team's strengths? Like, what's the team type? Is there an area where the team has several individuals? Yes, we do here. What does it mean for our team that there are more people in these areas, especially in relation to the team's goals? Is it possible that the team may overemphasize the strengths of this particular behavioural type? Some other questions. What are the team's weaknesses and their gaps? Is there an area on the diamond where there are no or very few individuals in the team? How is the team going to compensate for this, especially as it relates to the team's objectives? You know, when I'm working or developing a team and I have this type of thing come up, you're not able to always just go and hire or recruit people into the gaps. You have to work out what to do. I look at people's flexibility zones and see who can flex into those gaps. Potentially strategically, I would like to probably recruit a few different people down to add to this leadership team, for example, but that, as I say, not always able to do. Is the team divided into subgroups in this situation? Yes. Is there any conflict between the different groups? Is there different types of activities required from the team? So let's say this was a customer service team. Okay, let's just pretend it's a customer service team. And they all do the same role. You know, for me, this is a reality when I'm out there. Sometimes this actually happens and I have to think, right, okay, the customer service role in general needs a certain behavioural or competency behavioural areas from often around sort of anywhere from SC through to IS, for example. But not always. I've seen many people in that area okay performing customer service, but there are some big challenges with it as well, as you may know. So it's just really about you understanding the team type, the purpose, the industry, the goals, the organisational goals, etc. The other thing is, are there individuals alone in certain areas? And we call these lone wolves. In this situation, no, but many times you might get a cluster of like a homogenous team, which is the cluster of on the shotgun map all around one area, and maybe one or two people are way out on a different team role. You know, how can you support those people? Again, if I'm recruiting, I need to know where the new recruit might fit. Are they going to be an overlap of where I've got lots of other people? Are they going to be a lone wolf and add to a gap that I might have and need, or do I even need that particular gap? So gaps analysis is pretty important, but you can really only do that once you understand team roles and have material in front of you, and you understand team types, and you understand convergent and sorry, my internet's playing up a bit today. So anyway, you get the gist of what I'm saying. You know, all of this stuff is pretty important. So when it comes to analysing the team, you actually understand how this stuff actually helps at a different level. You know, I could just go straight into the team and build, and you can read it, but I don't think you get as much out of it if you understand how it can be used. Okay, so I've probably rattled on enough there. We're going to have a look at the team and build assessment. So for those of you that are quite new, this is easy to produce. You know, you tick the people, go into your Finks account, tick the people that you want to be included in the team and produce a multi-person report. This, of course, needs to be in your account, but usually the fabulous team at HRP have set this up for you already in your account and it's ready to go. So I want to show you there's 4 different diamonds. I tend to use all of them really, they're quite handy. So the first one, as you know, is what we call a shotgun map. Okay, and I do tend to use this when I want an unbiased look at analysing the team, especially if I've got to know people in the team too. I can see where the dots are and analyse the team type. But more importantly here, this is also about disc type, and you can see the little columns that come with it. As a team, 33%, the I, 17%, S 17%, and C 33%. So as a team, you can see how their disc is made up. And then of course, how many people are in each one. So that's quite good. And for bigger teams, that's really helpful as well. Then we get to the other side where we may need to look at names, for example, and analyze who is where and why and how we can utilize them and what's going on. And I don't mean to say utilize, but utilize their strengths more. And that also gives rise to why things might be avoided as well. So here's the last two diamonds that are in the team and build report assessment. The arrow map shows how the individuals are adapting in the team, and you can really start to see things like influences on the team as well. For those of you who have listened to other webinars, you'll understand what the arrows are doing when they're all facing one particular way versus all over the place, long arrows, short arrows, for example. I didn't have enough time to go into everything today, but those of you, everyone obviously listening would have been trained in some capacity, so do refer to those because boy, they're also very helpful to analyse a team. I'll often see, say, a very customer focused culture showing many of their people adapting down into the people-oriented side of the axis. Typically that would make sense. And it can be very interesting as well when companies say that they are very customer-centric or customer-focused, and everyone's going in the opposite direction. So is their culture actually implemented, or is there other things influencing them away from the people side of things? So again, this is really great information for you to be able to take away and think, right, what is this all about? And then the other diamond there is what we call the team flexibility diamond. And this gives you everyone's information put into one. And it gives you the areas of the team that have natural flexibility or strengths even into those areas. And the white areas are ones that may not be covered as much. Now, I use this quite a lot, and those of you who have done the training for level 2, you'll know that I tend to put responsibilities of the team around the diamond, and you can then see where there's white areas and where there's grey areas. So the grey areas would cover those people in the team, or the team, the way they can flex would cover those certain responsibilities. And the white areas are the areas that I have to figure out, do I need to recruit more, or have I got people in the right area really for their strengths and development areas. So some good ones to consider as well. This next slide is the behavioural styles. Now, both the table and the actual profiles themselves are currently shown in the team and build assessment. But can I just say, if you have a big team, it's probably better to take the profiles out, because otherwise you'll have a massive long report. So this is why the table can just be implemented with everyone's names, and it keeps it a lot shorter. But beware that if you take the profiles out, it's not as easy to analyse, say, special cases that are going on. And I have to say, from my point of view as a consultant, these special cases can tell a lot of information about what the team is going through. So there's 10 special cases, for example, and if there's a lot of uncertainty of role in an existing team, and I see a lot of trends of that, then that could be something that I bring up and needs to be implemented or defined. If there's a lot of insecurity, all sorts of things, it means different things. So I do tend to keep them in as long as it's not a huge team, because otherwise I've got a report that's 40, 50 pages long. The other thing you can do, of course, is just refer to their individual reports if you need to analyse that. So again, staying with the team and build report, it's a very specific styled report that has what you need directly for analysing a team. So this next one is, it analyses every person and gives a paragraph of the team role in depth. So not, it doesn't, I mean, you can see here that it gives an Ashura specialist, it gives a very short overview of each of the team roles, but the paragraph has a lot more depth. Now, this is so useful for things like job responsibilities or looking at the team in a strategic level, if I'm realigning the team or restructuring the team, or just looking at the goals or how to motivate team members is another one as well. So, I mean, there's so many different ways you can use this, and it really does depend on what you're trying to do with the team, as you can hear. So the last ones I just wanted to point out was the competencies. The report, the Team and Build report, is actually divided into sections at the back, and which in turn, under each section, has a group of behavioural competencies that each person is measured on. Remember, this is not a can or can't do type situation. It is natural versus not as natural on each competency. So if they might be using more energy or using natural, or are they using more natural strength? The competencies have a percentage at the end of each section, which is pretty handy for you to get a quick guide or an overview of match for that section for each person. The assessment is obviously, I mean, for me, I use it a lot, and it's full of great tools and components that help give you an overall picture of where the team is at. Some of the components you need to read a bit further into and have prior knowledge to analyze it. And some of it, of course, you can just literally read as is. So some of the team types and things like that, you just need to know what you're looking for and why. Okay. So here's a bit of a takeaway summary. Nobody's perfect, but a team can strive to be perfect for their fit or organisation or their purpose. So many companies plan recruitment based on skills, but they might do better if they also understood team makeup more before they recruited. So individuals responsible for the recruitment frequently recruit people like themselves. I see it all the time. You know, often others feel comfortable in the interview process, so they recruit themselves. But actually, is that what the team really needs? Is it what it is actually required? Is it in line with the purpose? It's pretty critical actually to get that right. Knowing an existing team dynamic, so understanding assurer, communicator, instigator, so team roles, is the start of knowing options on how to fill gaps or overlaps, or if you need gaps or overlaps, or how to deal with lone wolves, for example, out there, how to support them. The next one is homogeneous, heterogeneous, and diverted team types each have an advantage, and they have some disadvantages too. Learn those, because actually that's going to help you assess any team, whether it's starting from ground zero and designing a brand new team, right through to bringing someone into an existing team, or literally trying to develop a high-performing team. Team members that are similar can amplify strengths as well as weaknesses. Just remember that. In addition, teams that have diverse team roles may help to create innovation and creativity. You know, a recent poll implied that when teams work together well and are fully functional, then there is less time spent on HR and interpersonal issues, but there's also a very real contribution to the dollars and the bottom line. So understanding team roles, understanding team types, using the team and build analysis and the 4 different diamonds, investigating and researching what your team's purpose and goals are in line for, and really understanding, I guess, what each team role brings to the table is so vital. I literally have a little booklet with me that I've created, and or basically just the pages put together, and I make sure that when I am analysing, I have that with me. So I'd love for you to be able to do that as well. And I know that we look into this a lot more in that level 2 area. So now you know a little bit more about teams, but if you want to ask any questions, send it off to HR Profiling, and they will be able to assist you, especially with any material that you need. Great. Hey, well, everyone, thank you very much for listening to me today. I've tried to keep it, I went a little bit slower today, but I've still stretched it out a bit. But I will see you next time we have another webinar. And if there are any topics that you would like covered, please send them to HR Profiling, and they can let me know as well. Thanks, everyone. See you for now. Bye.